Hi, I'm Kevin Lee with the eMarketing Association. Many of you know me as the founder of Did It, a search marketing agency that pivoted into a full service agency. And now we do a little bit of everything. I also have a nonprofit called Giving Forward, which is a cause marketing based nonprofit. I'm lucky enough to be here with Matt Capala with Alphametric. Matt used to work for me, and so he's an alumnus of Did It, and it's always great to catch up with him. So one of the things that's obviously happening right now is Google's been going mobile first, right? And a lot of the folks who had sort of should have addressed mobile friendliness issues years ago are finally sort of realizing that if they don't do it now, they're really going to be in a tough spot from a search visibility perspective. Has that been sort of a catalyst for a lot of your clients where that was what got them ready to sort of have you take a fresh look from an SEO perspective?
Yes, Kevin, thank you for having me on. It's great to catch up with you, and I'm excited about the eMarketing Association. So I would say that mobile, it's a little bit of an old news at this point. I would say that what I encourage my clients to do, and I think you experience this all the time because you are around web development. We do a lot of SEO at Alphametic. So we are constantly around web development, and you see these creative presentations in the boardrooms. And what happens during this presentation, they show desktop website first. Everybody's doing testing, user, testing and everything on the desktop side. And then towards the end of the presentation, let's look at different sizes and formats. And I always tell my clients, well, let's start with the mobile side. Okay, let's look at the mobile side first, and then put the desktop towards the end of the presentation. You have to shift your mindset, your focus. And, I would say that's really hard to come across a client that wouldn't be mobile or mobile responsive or whatnot. I mean, there are some of these archaic websites that I once in a while do come across, but this is something that we're not really preaching, oh, you have to be mobile. What we're doing is we'll say, well, we'll look at mobile first. And in B2B, you still, in some of our B2B clients, I see like 80% of leads, 70, 80% coming through desktop. So it's a little bit of a different situation. When I talk to a B2B client, yes, built for the future, but ultimately they will have a content heavy website. And sometimes you do have to look at desktop, with your eyes wide open and focused. But when it comes to e-commerce, it's definitely mobile first.
Cool. Well, the one of the other things that's been gone crazy, also sort of off the charts in popularity is video, right? And so one of the things that we end up in conversations with our clients about is sort of how do we create video? Should it be high production value? Should it be sort of authentic? Out of the street type video? And what if you're in a boring category? So we've come up with some really fun stuff. I'd love to hear some of the stuff that you've come up with for clients when they say, hey, what about YouTube? It's the second largest search engine, and I want to show up in there too. How do you end up weaving video into an editorial calendar for your clients? Is there a process that you use?
Yeah. And I would say that you have to put these videos into a few categories and then think about the kind of return or your effort and how it's going to be used. Okay, so the first bucket of your video should be, you should have one video which really tells the story about your company. And for B2B, it would be a message from a CEO. For a B2C company, it could be an explainer video. And something along the lines for a SaaS or software company, it would be more of like an explainer video type of a thing. And that should be like super professional production. So if you go to my website, alphametic.com, you see I have 2-minute video where it's a very talented video production company did it. You want to script the whole thing. You want to look super professional. This is the video that I'm proud of. It's going to be closing deals for me. And I put it on my homepage. And this is the first category. And I would say, don't be cheap with this. There's so many people who can do the video. it's like getting a tattoo, right? You're gonna go to somebody like, hey, I can do it for $20. I know somebody who can do it cheaply. No, you're gonna choose the best artist because this goes on your homepage. So that's the first category. And I see a lot of companies are weak in that area. And the companies that win, they have amazing videos. Like that guy who was selling the 99-cent razor blades, or what was it?
Dollar Shave Club.
Yeah. But you don't have to be funny. You don't have to be, necessarily, you can be very professional, and it can be a law firm. But it's very hard, and I talk a lot about it in my new book, the psychology of the website. Okay, so there is a certain user psychology that you have to be aware of when they visit your website or engage with your content on social media. And when they go through this process, it's really hard to build somebody's trust where they cannot see you, they cannot hear you speak. A lot of times what you ask me, when I look at these websites, especially for B2B companies, I look at a website, and sometimes at conferences when I speak, I'm asked to audit the websites like, in a minute. So I look at the site, and the first thing I look at is what? The header. I want to see what's the, hero image or hero video or whatnot. And I see it's always like cartoonish type of explain. They're like, oh, we do roofing, and it's like a cartoon type of a thing. And this is like the worst way to develop trust and get somebody to stay on your website, because people trust when they see humans, they see other people. I see the team of people standing, working in the office. That's really what you need to project on your website, and video is a great tool to project that. Now, this is the first category. Again, go crazy, go over the top, invest, hire the best agency that you can find for your budget, and make a super professional video you can use as a commercial. You can put on your homepage. That's a must, number one. Number two are what I called a series videos. So this is what you're doing. And, the idea here is that you create some kind of a show. And a lot of people, what they do is, they do a video about this and a video about that. And it's not connected. There's no brand around it. So I always tell my clients, you have to create some kind of a show, and, pick the main platform where you will do your show, and then, disseminate it across all the platforms, spread it out. So, if YouTube is your main platform, for example, although I feel YouTube right now is very competitive, I'm myself choosing platforms where I can get a first mover advantage. So this is how I, think about it. YouTube for me is more of a distribution platform at this point. But yeah, you put your major platform, and then you create adjacent content around that. So you're gonna take this video and put it as a blog post. Maybe do a press release about it if you interviewed somebody famous and you have good quotes. You're going to put it on Vimeo and YouTube, and I'm going to republish it as blog posts on LinkedIn and Medium. And maybe I have partnerships with other companies where they think my content is that great that they will republish it, and I embed it in my newsletter. Okay, so this is the kind of second part, and this should be like semi-professional, I would say. The way we do it right now is okay as far as the quality goes. And, I always say it's like a heartbeat. It has to be like a healthy heartbeat. So you have these big, the big campaign and the video. Then you have this, series or show that you brand. And then lastly, you have this micro daily content. So yeah, it's okay, to grab your phone, right? Go on TikTok and say, hey, I'm here. And that's okay to have this type of low quality content, but I'm not going to publish it on my website. It's for TikTok. It's for Instagram stories. It's going to go away after 24 hours.
Cool. What do you recommend? Not every client of ours or of yours, right, has a charismatic founder or a charismatic ongoing business person, right? Large brands obviously can create characters or hire famous people. They can hire influencers, or like Progressive Insurance can create flow, and flow can be, with their spokesperson on an ongoing basis. So when it's a client who perhaps doesn't have a charismatic individual who can be sort of the face of the organization, or they're camera shy, right? Or they just don't like being on camera. Do you have an alternative plan that you would come up with for those folks?
Well, put that person on the phone, let them call me, and I'll motivate them. Okay, I'll motivate them. Listen, it cannot have, you can't outsource everything. You know, you are in charge, you're building your business, you are the founder, you are the CEO. You know, get out of your comfort zone. Your employees depend on you. You know, all I'm asking for is a 2 minute or even 60 seconds. Now, here's the thing. When you work with an amateur who's going to come with a camera, I'm like, okay, tell me what you think, and we're going to somehow mesh it up into a video. That's not going to work, especially for a shy person. A shy person needs a script. Now, do you know, Kevin, that company that does painting with a twist?
No, I don't.
All right, so we did a team event of Alphametic. All my team members went in, and you kind of bring your own wine and beer. It's basically like an event type of a thing, and they show you step by step how to paint a beautiful picture, like like Van Gogh, pretty much type of quality. And this guy, you know, or Gary, whoever the instructor, the teacher is, they tell you like, grab this paint, make a line. Now this, make a line here, and they go step by step into sort of like a process. And then, you know, I'm not talented at all when it comes to painting, and my teammates are like analysts, and we painted beautiful. I can bring and show you, like, you would be like, Matt, this is worth like $10,000 painting, tongue in cheek. But it proved that with the right system, if I script it for you and I put you in front of a camera and it's scripted and you know what you're gonna say, use the teleprompter if you have to, but everybody can do that. Now, for these interviews and somebody is shy and they don't want to do it, I don't think it's the right fit, because as a founder, CEO, as somebody responsible for the leadership role, most likely your time can be better spent managing the businesses, doing other things. But I don't see the alternative to that, because I think the people who are in a leadership role, they need to be at least a little bit visible on the side. If I can answer your question this way, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. And, I guess having the motivational agency person to get the person out of their comfort zone is sort of part of the package in your case. So.
Well, no, also, Kevin, giving them the tools, right? So when I shot my video, you can see it on my website, I scripted it. I didn't just go there with a mindset of I'm going to wing it. When I go and speak at a conference, a lot of people are shy away from speaking at conferences, and they're missing out on a great opportunity to get free branding, free marketing, and even like with you, e-marketing association. A lot of this, people still have to they have to add some value, right, in order to be perhaps a speaker or a contributor or whatnot. So you always have to come from a perspective of value, and the script is really not for you, but it's for the end user. You have to think about them. Nobody wants to see you rambling on a video for an hour when they're like, okay, what is this all about? And it's harder. It's harder to make a 60-second video than it is to make 90 or 2-minute video, right? So saying what you have to say in 60 seconds and scripting it, and then having a very talented creative team where just leave it to them. We all have great ideas, like I want this way, I want a camera here. No, let the videographer lead you, and you just have a script and follow it. It's going to be a success, like with the painting with the twist.
Yes, I totally agree that the script is extremely helpful. One of the things that I'll do for scripting, when I'm scripting a video for myself, is I'll just set Zoom to self-record, or I'll use a screen recorder with the cam, and I'll record myself, with the script over and over again, trying to make it shorter and shorter and shorter, because people don't give you the same amount of time to make your point as they might have 10 years ago, whether it's ADD gone wild or people's patience is just not there. I think part of that scripting process is potentially letting it go through a couple of iterations before you call the camera crew in, right? Practicing it by yourself, videotaping yourself, giving yourself overnight to sort of give it a fresh look the next day, bringing in maybe another copywriter to give it a shot. As you agree with, like with the tattoo, you probably wouldn't walk into the tattoo parlor and say any bird is good. It doesn't really have to be, an eagle. You should have a really good idea, because it's not as permanent as a tattoo, but it's equally important, because it makes an impression right away for those sort of high-end videos. Obviously, a different talent is necessary if you're going to do impromptu video interviews that are not scripted. You and I have known each other long enough that we didn't need a script or questions to have this conversation. But I'd love to hear your thinking on sort of which of the social media platforms you think is sort of up and coming and hottest, or whether you make that decision based on the particular brand. I mean, obviously, consumer brands and B2B brands have a very different set of social media platforms that are right for them. But as you're sort of planning out a holistic content-based strategy, sort of, is there a process you go through to identify the best social media channels for clients?
Yeah, and what I like to do is I like to come from a perspective of a user. I think as marketers, we end up reading a blog article about social media, a channel, a new social media channel, and we're like, oh my goodness, this is like the best. But if you are not a user on the platform, if you haven't created an account and used it and engaged and published, and you cannot really tell. You cannot really go to clients and kind of pretend to be an expert on it. So start with the perspective of a user. And what I like to do is I test these platforms. And I love using Facebook and Instagram for clients, and we use LinkedIn and Twitter and all these big channels available. So they have more advanced, ad capabilities and technologies. Targeting is great, and you have the users on the platform. But if you were a startup or an entrepreneur, especially organically, it's very hard to develop your audience on these platforms. Mark Zuckerberg is going to set up an algorithm to work against you, not for you, right? You're not going to be seen much in the feed unless you boost. So right now I'm testing a platform that I'm very excited about. It's called Icon Live, and it was created by Ja Rule. And it's exciting because it's kind of like a live stream marketplace where it has the celebrity factor, where you can go and you can book a celebrity, and they can call into your birthday party, or you can interview somebody like Ja Rule and some of these entertainment celebrities. It has an ability to have a 6-way split screen, like within the Instagram story live, so you can have group events. You can do like a paper wall in order for somebody, like a VIP room for people to join. You can tip. So there's a lot of DJs mixing on the platform. And I have clients in the entertainment industry, so this is relevant to me per se. And the platform has its own digital currency. It's called Crowns. And it just went, right now it's by invitation only. So I'm happy to send you an invite code. But I'm an early user, I'm testing. And if you were an early user, the same happened with Clubhouse, which is another one. The Clubhouse, you could have access on Clubhouse to people and celebrities, in influencers. You would never have had on Instagram. Okay, you could be in a room on Clubhouse early on, talking to these celebrities who would totally not engage with you on Instagram, for example. And now, Clubhouse is getting a little bit more crowded. People kind of looking for the new thing. The third thing that I'm watching, so our Clubhouse is the second one. And the third thing that I'm watching are social media platforms on a blockchain. I think this is a trend in the technology. And I think it's early. One platform that I'm watching is called BitClout, where these influencers can create a coin, if you will. And it's very early on still in this influencer space. But I think brands who work with influencers, they can find deals, let's say discounted ways to engage these influencers, all these emerging platforms, while they themselves can build accounts like Gary Vee did on Twitter very early on. So I encourage everybody to just start kind of using this platform as a user. Twitch is the last one that I'm also very excited about. Twitch is very interesting platform for live streaming videos. And yeah, I would say these four are definitely the ones that I'm watching right now. They're very early, these platforms.
Cool, cool. Well, I always laugh whenever we all do it in the industry, right? We call them users, right? Because the only other industry that really calls their customers users is the drugs industry, right? But, you know, customer journeys are absolutely key. You know, we find that so many insights bubble to the surface as we both put ourselves in the shoes of the customer, but as well as engage in conversations with those customers, right? Because when you can identify their pain points and you can remove friction in their purchasing process, it's a huge win for everybody, right? Often the customer actually wants to buy from you, and sometimes you get in their way, right? As a brand, right? You actually not making it easy for them. You're forcing them to take extra steps, or you're making things unclear, or you're confusing them with copy, right, or with messaging. And so I had a research team on recently on the e-marketing association, which is really one of the things they do is really to help identify, right, the customers needs, the customer's journey, and where the brand is perhaps getting in their own way. So yeah, I'm trying to not call them users anymore. I'm trying to move to a customer-centric mindset, even though all the web developers on my team still call them users, because that's what we do in the software world.
Just call them people. Just call them
I told them
people, you know.
customers, right? The customers are not, it's still a customer journey, right? It's still the customer needs to move from the prospect or potential customer into the actual customer point of view, even if they're not paying for something. I mean, it's even a publisher, right, who's not a subscription-based publisher, they should be thinking about, the person consuming their content as a customer, right? So
Yeah.
it's almost like a little bit of a mental switch that we go through when we call them users, and we're all guilty of it, and we'll continue to do it probably forever. But as marketers, right, that as long as we're thinking customer first, right, unless the customer gets what they want, we don't get what we want, right? So we really need to sort of put them first. That's another huge issue, right, for the industry right now, particularly on the paid media side, is the removal of IDFA for tracking and targeting purposes by Apple within the app environment, and Chrome following Safari down the third-party cookie disappearance, and the fact that we won't have quite the level of targeting that we maybe got used to in the last few years on the paid media side. And did it obviously because we came from a content-centric background. We always thought of context as being super important, and we thought about location as being super important. And those things we will still have for the most part, right? We'll have what are they consuming, what kind of content are the consumers consuming. It's called consumption of content, and they're also consumers. But and where are they, right? So those are two signals that are pretty strong, but they're not nearly as strong as some of the signals we've gotten used to for retargeting purposes, or using third-party data sets and lookalike modeling and such. So do you have any thoughts on how marketers and the agencies should think about alternatives to that level of one-to-one targeting that they maybe got a little bit excessively used to, which may go away?
Yeah, I would say number one strategy for me right now is to double down on as you can use it for a little bit longer. So take advantage of it. It's definitely it's a trend that seems to be going away, and we are still way ahead than Europe and some other countries. And I don't know what the future holds, and I try not to trouble myself thinking about things that I cannot control. But right now, the cookie-based retargeting and all of that, amazing targeting for marketers. Imagine when you started, or even when I started 15 years ago, when you would kind of think about that type of targeting, that you could actually retarget to somebody who bought something somewhere else and that sort of a thing. I would say that we've also given a few platforms a lot of power in terms of dictating the market. So, it's up to the people, it's up to the marketers, whether they're going to be experimenting with some of the emerging platforms. You have new browsers, you have blockchain-based technologies. And I'm not like a crypto enthusiast or anything like that, but they just provide alternatives. They provide alternatives, and more people are on it. So this is a little bit different demographic, more younger demographic. But if one platform is not allowing it, maybe another platform will allow it. And it's hard to say, because there's another. I talk about cognitive biases in my book. I've been studying psychology a lot recently, Kevin, and there is the recency bias and what's happening right now. So we are so biased by what's happening today that it's really hard to kind of project what's going to happen in the future. And today we're dealing with this situation, but I think when we look into the future, I don't think that there's always going to be somebody, some company, whether US based or from China or somewhere else, they're going to look into this and say, okay, the marketers and businesses will jump on it if I can allow what Apple doesn't allow or Google doesn't allow, and maybe users and advertisers will start spreading out their dollars a little bit more. So this is kind of where I see this going. I think it's going to be sort of, a decrease in this activity, but then over time, there will be some other places where you'll be able to do more. So the type of decentralization of everything, it's a trend that I think it's going to happen, in my personal view.
Yeah, I mean, we'll let the venture capitalists place their bets on the future, right? As opposed, we certainly need to keep our eye on where the trends are going. I agree with you that empowering the consumer to sort of control sort of what gets shared and what doesn't get shared may be the solution, and you can do that anonymously through blockchain as well as some other methodologies. But blockchain and the ability for sort of everything to exist in an open ledger, essentially, and the combination of that with smart contracts, it really is, there's going to be stuff that people come up with in the next couple of years that will blow our minds, right? So as long as agencies stewarding our clients' budgets and energies, as long as we keep our eyes open to those things and are willing to test them as soon as it looks like they're getting some traction, I think that's going to be really, really key.
Sure.
Key for ourselves and key for our clients. And to be honest, it's complex enough that it's going to keep both of us in business.
I think so, Kevin. I think there's so many opportunities popping up, and especially now in 2021, coming out of very challenging 2020. 2020 was very challenging on many different levels, but as far as technology, it's just been, the roaring 20s, the beginning of the new roaring 20s, while other industries were in trouble. The tech, has been growing exponentially. And I don't think, again, because of this recency bias, these changes, we need time perspective to look back and kind of see what happened. But they've been happening right now. And for example, the growth of e-commerce in the first quarter, penetration was like 10 times, grew 10 times compared to, last year. And some of these new platforms, they just started popping out as we speak. So I think there's a lot of innovation, and obviously everybody's going to put most of their eggs into Facebook and Instagram and Google, and so we're doing the same thing at Alphametic, because that's where we're seeing the volume and results. But keep that 10%, 20% of your budget or your team's time and challenge them to innovate. And not every idea will be great for every client, but if your agency is not providing these ideas and it's not on top of what's happening, I don't think you're going to be kind of relevant, because if you just do Facebook ads, that is like, the biggest commodity out there, if that's the only thing you do. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we need to manage risk for clients and also look for opportunities at the same time. One of the crazy things that we didn't really anticipate was, when we bought our first direct mail company, we ended up buying a total of 3. We knew direct mail was hyper-targeted. And as a matter of fact, direct mail still has a lot of that one-to-one targeting that is starting to disappear online. But we saw the intersection of direct mail and hyper-targeting at the consumer level once you knew the person's identity and you could put them into a custom audience, for example, that those two things together would just ended up being incredibly powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't anticipate it. We started testing it because the first acquisition was really more serendipitous, and that combination. It's sort of like what is old has become new again, because you know people still go to their post boxes and get mail, right? And now that they're not as full as they used to be, you can actually break through the clutter in really fascinating ways. And when people
I,
see the same message in their on their screen or in their Facebook feed or in that they saw in their mailbox, there is sort of a little bit of a multiplication effect there, and we didn't anticipate it, to be perfectly honest. And some other folks in the industry did and had built their entire strategy around it. But for us, it was sort of like a happy accident in the beginning, and now we're far more strategic about it. So it's interesting to see that a lot of things that started out as sort of pre-COVID or sort of pre-technological revolution, there's just a new version of it. Addressable TV is another area, right? So the set-top boxes, a lot of that same targeting that is disappearing in the browser is actually still in existence in the set-top box.
mm-hmm.
So for certain marketers, if the messaging is appropriate, being able to deliver it down to individual clusters of audience in set-top boxes, there's still some people who watch video that way and other people don't, right? So depending on where your customer is, you really sort of have to think about it. And and you really have to think about, well, where is my customer and where are some interesting ways that I can reach them efficiently, right? And that's the really the joy of the paid media side of the business, right? The earned media side of the business has its own joys of wow, I can't believe we ranked for that, or wow, we have between ourselves our own website and other websites that we control. We own 3 out of the top 10 SERP results, right? Those are also joyous occasions. So what do you see for yourself like in the next year? You're growing your company. You're back in the office starting soon.
Yeah.
Do you have any particular area of focus that you'll be putting yourself into?
Yeah, for sure. I think what we do very, very well is SEO, and we try to do modern SEO. And this is an area that has evolved so dramatically over the last decade, over the last few years. And I've been very outspoken, in the industry. And my thesis has been modern SEO is about understanding and predicting human psychology. So this is what I'm all about right now. And I think as an industry, we've been chasing the algorithm. It's constantly been kind of like speculation and outrage that Google's updated something. And again, I don't spend time worrying about things outside of my control. And instead of trying to play catch up with the algorithm, you have to understand where the algorithm is going. And where the algorithm is going is beyond understanding of any human, because it becomes artificial intelligence. It's machine learning. Artificial intelligence is the rank brain. So I see these quote unquote gurus who say, well, I can get you guaranteed, okay, well, this is not even a Google engineer can really predict what's going to be on the top of Google. So instead of trying to optimize for this rank brain, you have to optimize for the human brain. So this is my this year I'm all about the psychology of the website, mastering cognitive biases, conversion triggers, and modern SEO to achieve massive results. And in this book, I talk about how to optimize for the user to get great SEO results. Now, when you look at the ranking correlations, Kevin, you already know this. Remember, SEO from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, page title, metadata, like backlinks still important and everything, and anchor text and all of these things. Now I look at the ranking correlation, they at the bottom. On the top, you have whether somebody bounced back, how many pages they viewed, and actually whether they converted. Like you have to have a website that's actually converting for Google to, think of that website as quality and valuable and trustworthy. So I developed this 6-step system that basically takes into account, I don't want to say user psychology, but human psychology when they interact with your content. Because you talk about this digital, I talk about the internet user attention span deficit, which is right now shorter than that of a goldfish. They, before even your web page loads, they make a quick decision whether they stay or go. And there's so little consideration in the boardrooms about, okay, step number one, how to keep them. You have to develop trust, right? So that's Google Eat. Are you an expert? Are you an authority? Can I trust you? Okay. So there's certain strategies like social proof, displaying authority, the video we talked about. Then the step two in my process involves removing objections. Now, how many clients of yours are sitting, looking at their website, their landing pages, and like, what kind of objections can drive my customer away? Well, can I list these objections? And then can I develop content to remove these objections with? And actually, with the video, a great strategy would be, let's say that the major objection for your company, for Did is that, potential customers, clients feel like you don't have the time. Oh my God, it's gonna take me so much time. The time consideration can be, or a price, money consideration can be an objection. So the best way to do it, you would perhaps get a testimonial from one of your clients, and they would say, well, working with Kevin, it was like a breeze, very little time. I was worried about how much time it's going to take, but his company really reduced my operating time by 20% first month. Boom, you're removing objections with your content. This is the type of a strategy that everybody should be thinking about. Otherwise, people drop off, your SEO goes down, your conversion rate goes down, and you keep tweaking the ad copy, right? As opposed to thinking about these things. Then what I talk about is getting small commitments. What happens in the industry is like, oh, buy now. I got to click buy now, right? Remove all the options. Just, people are smart. They know how to kind of find a way to buy. But what you want to encourage at first, before you ask them to buy, is encourage a small commitment. So if somebody's scrolling, it's a commitment. Somebody's, viewing, changing the slides, somebody clicking to learn more, somebody, doing different viewing pages. These are small commitments because there is a consistency bias, okay? It's one of the strongest bias in human mind is the consistency bias. Once you raise your hand and commit it to something, you are more likely to stay the course. If you've ever been to, we talk about motivation today. If you ever been to like a Tony Robbins event, you're going to be asked to like raise your hand, stand up every 5 minutes, and you'll be asked to reaffirm, because he knows that afterwards you'll be most likely to stay the course because you've made this, and you're going to have to turn to other people and tell them that you affirm to your new resolution that you will be healthy and successful and whatnot. So we see it all the time. So you have to get these small commitments and create the sort of a funnel. And then from there, lastly, you have to, not lastly, but just 2 more seconds, you have to frame your offer. So offer framing is, again, some of these MBAs, I personally have an MBA in marketing, although I don't remember much from my classes, but I was, teaching at NYU. I was adjunct professor at NYU. So I'm a little bit academic in my research, but I'm a practitioner first and foremost. But, framing your offer means that you need to figure out what people will see before the offer or around your offer. So, for example, providing plans and comparing, when you go to any SaaS companies like MailChimp or Dropbox, you see they're going to have different plans. And you can see sometimes they're going to put a very high number first and then a small number second. That's a positive anchoring, right? So they see, oh, wow, this number is much smaller than that one. Or it could be a negative anchoring. They can show you, a different sequence of how these different offers are presented to you. If you want to buy a tire insurance, you're going to see a picture of a car with a ripped tire. That's negative framing because it's going to bring me closer to, okay, solution, right? Pain versus solution. So there's a lot of these copywriting techniques. There's psychology of color I talk about in my book, how to project confidence, how to drive action, a lot of different research points. And then you have, you have to also reassure with social proof at the end, even on your thank you page. Your thank you page should not be thank you. Your thank you page, you should put that video there on your thank you page. You should put custom testimonials, client logos, social proof, a message from the CEO, right? An offer, a call to action. This is the point where somebody bought, and this is, if you read The Influence by Cialdini, he talks about, when you go to a store and you buy a suit, you're very likely to get the tie, and all these research, they look at it for 100 years with the advertising research and stuff like that. The same thing on the website. You have to think about reintroducing the social proof. There'll be buyer's remorse, so you want to mitigate it, and you want to build this funnel on your website that not only will help you with SEO, but also will help you get more and more conversions. So that's my approach. That's what I'm excited about. And I think, from what I've been doing, speaking about it for the last year, and I came up with this. This is my quarantine baby. Kevin, this is my quarantine baby. All right. So now I'm getting back on the stage. So next week, for example, I'll be speaking about this topic, the psychology of a website at Digital Summit from home. And then beginning late August, September, I'm hoping to go back. I'm booked in a bunch of events to get back on the plane and start speaking about it to marketers. And so far, it's been a great feedback because, they keep hearing the same thing. And we have to be forward looking. The world is moving very fast. And if we get late behind, we don't want to be the dodo bird, right? The dodo bird that extinct. And I think adaptability, this is when I close this with this last thought, it's not the strongest that survive. This is what people say that, but from Darwin, he said that's the most adaptable species that survive. So as a marketer, as a digital marketing agency, I think we have to be very, very adaptable and take nothing for granted.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And, the common theme of what we've been discussing over the last 20 or 30 minutes has really been that we have to think about the psychology of the consumer, right? Because it's their emotions that are going to drive that next step, whether that next step is a micro conversion or a further engagement or getting momentum, that building that momentum towards the action, which is good for them and good for you. Even though we're technically search marketers or we're doing social media, we really have to think of ourselves as marketers first, right? Which is really all about messaging. It's all about copy. It's all about the positioning and getting the emotional engagement of that consumer. So I think your multi-step system is great. Thanks for putting it into a book. I recommend folks buy it. I haven't had a chance to buy it and read it, so I'm going to have to do that myself. And look forward to keeping in touch. Thanks so much, Matt.
For sure, Kevin. Thank you for having me on. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.